And I will do mine this. Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Sean Kelly from Into the Night, and this is a pre recorded show for the 21st. Um, and because I'll be going and I'm getting operated on. So hopefully this works out and you'll see the same show on the 21st. I see people watching it right now. So who knows what's going to happen. But tonight I have my friend Michael Anthony. And welcome, Michael. Glad to see you. Glad to see you.
Welcome to all your friends, and thank you. Appreciate it.
So the weather we've been having up here in Pittsburgh, okay, has been sucky. Okay.
To say the least.
Yes. Unbelievably sucky.
Mm-hmm.
And like yesterday, it was crazy. I was at work and I happened to look in the skies. It was like around 5 or 6. And there were some weird looking freaking clouds, dude. No clouds that I ever recognized in my entire life. And that's the truth. I was like, they were bad. It looked like they were evil clouds. They were dark and just like, I know that we do have them cloud machines. Whoever did it, man, must have been on drugs or drunk or something, but they look pretty crappy and they were pretty bad. So, what is, I listened to a little bit of your show last night, and I would like you to talk about it, if you can, about what the hell's happening out there for the weather.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you're going to have a lot of great questions, and probably a lot of your chat room people will too. I started talking about this when I came back from being tossed, so to speak, and introducing myself to Facebook about 4 years ago. And it was a big concern to me because of what I was learning, what I was observing, how research had taken me to different scenarios of things of the future to come. And here we are now living in it. And it's a fact that we are. We know that things are going on. Tennessee has banned anything to go on above in their airspace. That right there gives us validation. Why would a state put themselves in a position to say, hey, stop, cease and assist orders? You can no longer do this if it weren't true. So we have our validation, but we also have other validations. Sun and Dim that came out several years ago that I talked about. And these were things that were analogies being put in place to basically get people used to the fact that things were going to happen because the earth itself was in turmoil and we needed to react towards it and for it. But what we truly are seeing with what we are learning and what we're waking up to every day is catastrophic weather and tornadoes just tearing down communities and family homes and devastation of many things that way. And that's a fact. So right now, just even this evening in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, we just had in our southern suburbs a tornado go through. So that also is happening. Yeah, you are live, by the way, sir. I'm just letting.
Okay.
So you're going to have to double it, but that's okay because you have a lot of good people out there, and they'll probably, retweet it, reshare it, and all that. We're already into this. We might as well just go.
Yeah.
So the thing, the thing about it is, it's devastating, and it is a weapon. In 1964, John Kennedy said himself on a live broadcast publicly to the United States of America and its citizens that we will be able at some point into the future to modify and basically be able to control the weather systems. I actually have his own words. If you go into paranormal cryptids, conspiracies, and everything else, and that group, I have that actual video content in there where he says it. And we know that they have done this. We know since wartime that they were utilizing it. We know that during a war that they utilized it to the point by overseeding so much that, and this was only the new rain element of making it rain. We sunk all our heaviest of equipments, and we had to abandon them, in the Vietnam War. So these things have been going on a long time. And also there's a rock star in the United States of America, Mr. Wiggins, and he has a lot to say and a lot to teach on these things. Dane Wiggins, and just a phenomenal person, someone to watch, someone who only concentrates on this. Like me, I research many things. And this is as important to me as the many things that I research, but he isolates himself to the one subject matter of this. And how this works also is they spray isotopes at certain points and times, and they create an icy atmosphere. Like if you went out in Pittsburgh right now, it feels like ice out there. It literally feels like you're in an icy weather pattern, but that's part of how they direct this energy system. And then they hit the switches and they start to turn up the volumes. We'll call them the volume switch on these towers that they call 5G. I call them 5 and above because that is a minimal. They can turn them up. And when they do, and these start to react into the atmosphere, we see cyclonic turning. And that's why we're waking up in areas in states where they're having 20 tornadoes during the night. And when do these people work best? At night. And that's the most devastating time. People fear going to bed and not knowing, am I going to be safe? And that creates social anxiety. This is a weapon of magnitude of what we never thought could be a possibility that is. So they know how to use it. They know how to weaponize it. It scares me to death when I think about what good people and families and children's and homes, innocent to the effects that are unaware of what's going on. And I don't know how to tell them. Hopefully we can reach somebody out here tonight that can pass on more of what we're talking about that takes us or gives them some type of information. But that's kind of what it is in a nutshell. You have certain things that they spray. Most common is barium, strontium, silver, nanoparticles, elements of metals and different types of metals. That's why you see these pretty skies. And when everyone says, oh my God, look at the sunset. It's like a rainbow or the borealis, so to speak. Like when last night in Pittsburgh, we were seeing that I didn't personally. I went outside, I didn't see it. But I was receiving pictures from people that were, showing me this. And basically what it is, it's the same thing as a rainbow. So if you think you haven't seen them here, you have seen a rainbow. The effect's a little different, but there's a commonality there within it.
Wow. Hello, Beth. Glad to see you on board. That tornado just went through here.
Yeah, thanks for joining the live recording.
Yeah, live.
Make sure that it gets shared out if you can. What is it? This one's for Tuesday?
Tuesday the 21st of May.
Tuesday the 21st, yeah. So anyway, please, if you can, pass it around. So what else is on your mind as far as what I just shared to you is you have any comments back? I mean, I'd love to talk about it more if you want to.
Yeah, I would love to talk about it. All I know is that um, when I talked about the clouds, I the last week, okay, I just been looking up in the skies, okay, and I just get this uneasy feeling. Do you know what I mean? I really do, and it it just doesn't feel right. The birds are acting crazy, um, all kinds of other crap, and the cold. The cold is what's really killing. What it was 2 nights ago was down to what 42, 41 degrees,
Hmm.
and I'm just saying to myself, okay. And then when I saw those clouds, I was thinking I need to talk to Michael about this stuff, because I just don't understand why they want to use the weather against us, dude. I don't understand why.
Well, I do truly believe that it's like power grabs of lands, power grabs to basically under the plan of permits and building permit structures, new laws, enforcements, that there is certain criterias that are going to be mandatory into the future for what they want. It plays a huge cate- cate- category of what it can do and why they want to do it. One of the things I talked about last night was let me see if I don't know if this is the sheet. My not that it's I call it a cheat sheet, but let me see if I yeah. Okay, so we just not we, but our government just opened up something new now. It's called the Office of Environmental Justices. And what that means is they're going to make people comply, force compliance as to what they'll be able to do with land and how much they'll be able to have. And it's going to be a long game of cutting things back until they get it to the point of where they want it at. And it symbolically, it represents in my mind some of the same features as we see when we looked at what the Georgia Guidestones used to talk about of only having, 500 million on the planet, besides them, of course, but by having this and putting these things in place, it's for strategies and for forced compliances. So, everything in life is taxable. Our lives are taxable. The air we breathe, even though we don't look at it upon as being taxed yet. But the truth of the matter is you're taxed from cradle to grave. I've used that repetitiously. Excuse me for saying that, but it's a factual truth. And no matter what you do, you are paying a tax just to live and breathe on this earth. But when you have to also, when you also see things like this occur, it sort of starts to put the perspective into an order of more clarity also. And that's where we are with it. So when you open up things that are called offices of the new norm, basically, that's what I call it, because you're going to see a new normality. They want you to understand. They're even paying people. Thought just entered my mind. Excuse me. Sean, did you know, and this is factually true, they're paying people to paint lines now in movies to make these trails that they put into the sky to look like they've always been there as a natural substance of to what we have. And see,
Whoa.
if you go into an airport and you watch planes come in and land, you only see the discharge coming from the engines during certain periods of time, not going across the whole damn sky. It never happens.
Right.
There are planes that have the technology on them that can make it look like it's real. So yeah, they're even paying people to go into old movies and, recolorize them and also add aesthetics like chemtrails to them.
That is a freaking insane, dude. I right now how I feel about my government. I don't believe it. I mean, we're boomers, dude, and I don't think back then our government was that bad.
Well,
Sebastian
they,
Moran
they
says geoengineering.
yeah, well, you know what? I didn't want to ever believe most of the things that I learned, and I was appalled as I learned more, and that's why I became more of a person that wanted to be a voice to just give people warning. And I was told by people what I was talking about that I was just nuts, and I actually had things like that written to me. I'm not nuts. When you see it happen more and more, and they call it a new norm, they're going to call it a climate scenario issue. And that's not, but they're making it look like it because they can control it. Because you can't blame them for something that you think is a natural event.
Right.
So they hide behind these things. They hide behind them. That's where their safe zones are.
Okay. Beth McCord says another way to try and cover up reality. That's
True. I mean,
definitely
what don't
true.
they want us to see beyond the plateau of what they're spraying? Also, you might want to look at that, because how often and how many days are days really even clear? And if the sun, if they give the allowance to say, all right, we're going to hold back today and let them have a little bit of a blue sky, that night they're out there flocking the whole sky again. It's just like the Christmas tree. I never agree with people painting, what do they call it, the flogging the tree white, to make it look
Yep.
like it's that's the same thing they're basically doing with the sky. They don't want you to see the moon, the stars, the sun. And by doing that, they're tampering with Mother Nature itself. They're killing trees. They're over the trees are getting oversaturated and watered and breaking apart. Windstorms come in, and remember, one of the other elements, when they start turning up these knobs, you get cyclonic action even within range on minimal amounts under 30 miles an hour. So you have those events that are also occurring. That when you go out and say, wow, I never seen rain like this in Pittsburgh like that, it's unnatural. It is completely unnatural because it's a man-made element. And like I told people for years, if you think they can't control the weather and manipulate it, then ask yourself how a ski resort makes snow.
True. I was just thinking that, dude. Yeah, Seven Springs up there when there's no snow, and all of a sudden they're making snow so people can go ski. But before we go on, I want to thank UPRN Talk Radio 105.3, New Orleans 107.7, Mississippi, and I want to thank Carnation for sponsoring the show. And ladies and gents, this is a pre-recorded show, which is live. So on May 21st at 8:10 p.m., you're going to see the exact same show that you are seeing tonight. Back to this crappy weather. Now, I never, like the last 4 years, I didn't think it was as cold as what it is going on now. And my question to you, Michael, is do you think, since this is an election year, that they're ramping up everything here with the weather?
I think there's a possibility that they have some ideas behind why they're doing what they're doing, in ways. How to actually finger point towards what every nefarious item is, it's kind of hard to do. But we know it's how they work is within nefarious ways. So there's probably something that makes a difference as to why they are. But for the most part, I think when you look at the areas of votes, that's where the most devastation happens. It all depends who you vote for.
Hey, Rob, glad to see you, buddy. Thank you for stopping in tonight, my man.
Hey, Robert.
But off the subject a little bit, I have to tell you this and I have to share. I'm going to work a week ago, and as God is my witness, I'm coming down Scott Road. Okay, and off in the distance between freaking houses, dude, I saw my very first UFO. And that sucker was close too. It was round. It was big. It was round and it had all kinds of different lights on it. And I literally stopped in the middle of Scott Road to see if I could find it. I saw it and then I stopped and boom, it was gone. I had to share that with you. That I actually saw.
Yeah. And that's and that's why I do that topic, what's in the skies. Because there's a lot of things up there. And one of the things I like to point out on it, I would say a small number amount is truly an unidentifiable. We do know, and I do know perfectly honestly, that I could say this without any, without any, whatever the word is. I can't think of the man, but that these things are real, but they're not all about what we may think they're about. I think these are positively identifiable objects flying in the sky. It's
Okay.
not all about UAP and UFO and all that. I really truly believe in my heart that we do have a divide of government that is scientifically looking into all these things and has been for 75 to 100 years, creating things that they knew were out there, like even if you go back into ancient times, there was something called the Vimana, and that was what they talked about on some of the tablets and so forth, that they were utilizing, and they spoke about wars in the air, whether they were interplanetary in Earth, or the fact that they were leaving the Earth's atmospheres to have these wars up above in the heavens. But nevertheless, I do think from the informations that I found that in the 1850s, the Germans already had things in their hands. So this goes back really deep, really far, and they were on to this. And that was one of the reasons why they were homing the planet, going to all these ancient cities and going underground and looking for the artifacts of technologies. Not people think, oh, it was all about treasures and knowledge. And maybe it was partially about some of that, because we know they took, but they also were looking. And I believe it was all about a lot of the technologies of the predecessors of humanity. Not just because the Anunnaki came here, but because there's been many different cultures here. If you look at how that is, I believe we have many sky gods who came down. I really believe that we did. And how I reflect to that in my ideology of what it is, and I'm no master of science in this, and I think it's pretty easy to determine this if people just focus. My focus to how I come up with that determination is the fact that when you look at the different facts of structures, the archaeological structures themselves, the architecture and engineering of them, they resemble crafts. They resemble certain type, and almost everything that they build is a resemblance now to what we understand as a craft. So these people were coming here, building things, settling, colonizing with humanity, or bringing humanity in. And that's why we can look at each other across the board, and you can identify an Asian. You can identify a white Caucasian. You can identify a black. And I think that there was multiple races coming here, but there was one supreme race that was here first, who says this is theirs and their bloodline is with us.
Would that be the
Yes,
Anunnaki?
I can't actually say that it would be the Anunnaki, but we do reflect to that because they only allow us to see and understand certain tablets and have certain informations. But I think if you went into the Vatican, you'd find a lot more about much deeper and much further into the past.
No, man. No, I tell you what, I don't trust the Vatican anymore, dude.
Oh,
I don't.
no.
I don't. I mean, I be honest with you, I can't trust hardly nobody or anything like that anymore.
Yeah, they're a business. They did things for business. My God, if you have to pay somebody to get into the gates of heaven, I mean, how does that represent a God? It represents a bank account. It represents wealth to somebody that had an idea for good business, in my mind, you know. And I don't want to be rude about what I think I know, because I do know it. And I've come to those conclusions because of the painstaking hours and hours and hours and hours that I put into trying to put my life into a place of understanding what this is. But I think when you do understand it the way I've tried to lay it out, as simple as you can say it, and I think I did, I think it will open up people's eyes a little bit more and a little bit further into thought. That's what's important to me, the power of the message, giving it across. Because if you do look at things, even though that there is a commonality of many things that fit together, there is indifferences everywhere across every continent. But it, to me, again, that just represents that there were not just one coming here. There were many others that came here, maybe during different elements of time. But they set themselves up. They left the proof that they were here, and they left the culture within it. And basically, they handed it off. However, you know, when you go back and you want to have argumentative discussions, which would come up over this, would be the fact, well, who was here first actually owns the rights to the planet. not the people who live upon the planet. And that's why we are indoctrinated into this system of slavery, taxation, and all this other stuff. It's because they feel that it's truly theirs and we are a slave to them. Humans mean slavery when you really look into the breakdown of the definition.
Okay.
Animals. A human is an animal.
Yeah, I would think
Unless you
so.
spell your name with all capital letters. And I do. And I always have.
Okay. Nancy Vincent says, I don't trust the Vatican either. And Rob Kinsella said, politicians are temporary, military and government agencies are permanent. Truman did not know about the nuclear weapon for months after becoming president in 1945. Is that true?
I would say there was a lot of secrecy there. Yes. I mean, if you're in the need to know, not every president gets all the same information. And they probably look and reference their thought on how they're going to treat that party coming into the office or getting the best party that they feel they can manipulate while he's in the office is how they will release the information to him by who they think and how far they think they can trust that person. They're not going to give everyone the same types of information. He just won't. But again, we do have facts that back that up too, by knowing certain people who were privy to be the fly on the wall or sitting in the chair that were also helping give the accountability of the facts that we did have. And when you become president, you just don't learn about the fact that UFOs could be possibly true or not true. You learn about the history of what this planet is. That is put in part of the perspective that nobody talks about, but I will. There is a plan where it is disclosed to then that person in ways, so they understand who society truly belongs to across the globe.
That's very, very interesting. I've been razzled up, and another thing, talking about the air. I know I'm going to go all over the board tonight, Mike, but I was at work today in the past week, and nobody was smiling. Everybody had a lot of anger towards everybody else that didn't. Good day, Russell Easterbrooks. Good to see you, sir. And and it just was so damn mind-boggling that not even a smile coming out of people's faces. It was like they were going. If you said something wrong, that they were going to go after your jugular vein and just raise all kinds of shit. You know what I mean? And I'm just saying, it's got to be in the air. They really are weaponizing freaking everything.
Frequencies have that ability, and they know it. They figured that out 35, 40 years ago on how to utilize that. And I think that's part of the temperament that we accept as well as with the weather. Who wants to wake up to a rainy day every damn day of the month? You don't. You want to have spans of, beautiful and sun and warmth. And when that doesn't happen, I think it does affect. And that's why that term cabin fever comes up in the winter. Like when people are like, oh my God, I can't take this anymore. I got cabin fever. I want to get out of this house. I want to experience the outside. I want to plant my garden. I want to take the kids for a walk. I want to go out. I want to be a living. Well, if you take that away from everybody, are you not locking them down also and keeping them there?
Holy crap, man. Light bulb just went off in my head.
It's true.
That's just, wow. That was an awakening for me, sir. That was it. I never thought about that. I never thought about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to determine so much, but it's so much as signifies how it works within the system. And it's huge. It's huger than what people think this one element can do. It's mind-blowing.
It is. But we're coming up on the 30-minute mark, and before I'm going to take a 70-second break, and then we'll be back and continue for the second part of it.
And don't you guys go anywhere.
We'll be right back. We'll be right back. That is right. So let's do this.
Do it.
Let's do this. Hey, welcome back to Into the Night Tuesday night edition. This is a pre-recorded show. It will be shown on May 21st, next Tuesday, May 21st at 8:10 to 9:10 on my normal regular hours. I want to thank UPRN Talk Radio, 105.3 New Orleans, 107.7 Mississippi, and also want to thank Carnation for sponsoring, this hour of the show. And I also want to say thank you to my dear friend, Michael Anthony, who is my guest tonight. And we're just going all over the board tonight, talking what's been happening. We were talking about the weather. We talked about my first UFO experience. It was like really cool. Michael, that UFO, dude, it was so huge. It was unbelievable. And it was like right over the rooftops. Honest to God, it was down that low. And I was just like so excited. So I went in, did the dumbest thing in the world, and told everybody at work, and they're looking at me like I'm a nutcase.
Yeah.
So
that's part of the culture system. You know what I mean? You go into work, you're excited, you saw what you saw, you share it, and people look at you like, yeah, right.
Exactly. And I sure as hell ain't going to.
There's got to be a time in the future when people are going to wake up more. I hope.
I agree. I hope so too, Mike. But I couldn't call you at like 5:30 in the morning and you're sleeping. And hey, Michael, I saw my first UFO. You'd be like, shut the hell up and go to work. You woke me, you dumbass. So now you got to buy me coffee for the rest of the day. But yeah, so we were discussing about how the weather here in Pittsburgh and all the tornadoes. There it is. Like the tornadoes that happened down where Beth lived and down here in Finleyville, and how cold it's been. I mean, it feels like late October sometimes, 45 degrees. So we were discussing, and Michael was talking about the different things, how the government control us with waves, energy waves. Is that right, Mike? Energy waves?
So to speak, yeah. There's different forms of them, but yeah.
So when did they finally figure it out about how, radio waves could actually affect different things?
Well, I mean, when you go back to HAARP, what HAARP was all about, what it was developed, and why people started pulling out because they know how devastating it truly could be. I mean, you could put a false atmosphere into the atmosphere and recreate a second layer of a world that you can't see beyond or above. And that's how they work it. They utilize it by knowing how to measure the air qualities and how to create from that by what it is. And watch at the turn of a switch on the summer solstice. When we hit that first day of summer, watch them shut the isotopes off. And we will get granted that we can't make it look too devastating, but then they'll work it a different way. They'll do it by overheating. The element of the isotopes are only to guide a path, because normally when a storm comes into a colder air mass, it dissipates. So if you can create a scenario, you can create a divide of how that storm goes around an area and they can protect it. So they can do that as well as devastate it.
Now, what it's just I'm just I'm just pissed off, dude. I might as well. I'm one pissed off American, and I cannot be more honest than I am right now. And it just what can we do about it, Michael?
Well, you know what I want to say. And I think
Oh,
every American out there that starts to accept this, learn about it, and research it more would want to do all the same things we are. If we could go kick them and knock them down, that would stop it from working. That's really, but again, I don't want to create any harm on your show or anything, but the only way is to, when you have a bad element in place, is to remove the element. That's how we get rid. That's how we hope to get better leadership in and representation. I don't think we should have politicians. I think we should have leaderships that fall under criteria that we want them to fall under, and that they obey our wishes by what we want and the type of civilization we want to live within. But that's the only way to get rid of it. And in the earlier scenarios of when I started to share, like on America Disclosing Uncensored and places like that, I was trying to put up exactly what the people that were awakened to the fact of what this was were actually removing them. They were going into the farmlands, but look, this wasn't happening in the United States. It was our blood brothers from different mothers from the European countries and so forth like that. They were actually, nope, this ain't happening. We know what it is. It stopped, of course, and they went out, they rebuilt the infrastructure, came back in, they put them back up, because these things are necessary for this planetary alignment of the next step into the new norm of the future, where it's going to be cataclysms and so forth, which will be man-made created.
right. Beth McCord said, I could have called you, she said, and she's laughing. Jamar says, greeting and salutations. And hey, Joe Fox, good to see you, buddy.
Joseph, how are you, brother?
Yeah, man, it's good to see you. But I don't mind, what we could talk. It don't bother me what we talk about. Another thing that was on my mind recently is that for some reason I see a civil war going to be happening soon, my friend.
I hope not, because we can't stand up to the technology. Not by far. They have too much ingenuity and technology in place that's much further advanced than anybody would ever imagine. It's the same as when we talk about this thesis on fact of weather and climate and control and weather manipulation. It's a fact that's there, it can happen, they can control it. It's the same with them not even have to be anywhere near us to take us out. All we have to do is get out of line, ANI takes over. ANI comes in with robotics, it comes within microflies, it comes within flying cockroaches, it comes within moths, and these are actually elements. A fly can come at you with such velocity, put a hole, and know exactly where to hit your main artery, and you're done. You're done. And they have hundreds of thousands of them being stockpiled, being made. They have what's called the termite bomb that goes into you, it explodes. You're good. You're done. They don't have to be nowhere near you. They have robotic dogs that can patrol the streets. These are things coming into the future. As far as even with robotics are going to be taking our jobs. If you go to the end of the line in Walmart, you haven't seen that now everything is changing. These are long game changes that come into the future, where you're either going to be locked down in your home to do the ordering, and Walmart's will even be excluded, and you'll be dealing directly with Amazon, which now actually today made an announcement that they have over 13,100 electric vehicles delivering, and by 2030 they will have 110,000 on the roads doing all their deliveries. And by then the science should be all worked out, all the bugs should be cured. And we're going to go into that type of society of a new norm where gasoline engines are going to be no more. What was going to exist on Earth is only going to be maybe if you have certain classifications for cars that are considered to be collectible, but you won't be able to drive because you won't be able to buy fuels for them. These are the tactics of how they're going to take us into the future that they see as a future. It doesn't mean that we agree with it, and every bit of this causes social anxieties to every one of us as well. But for right now, we still are in that place of a cushion where they are only hitting and missing us and keeping us distracted as every day a new step of something comes into within a forced compliance, just like them offices that I told you about that they just opened up.
Right.
So you have these new divisions of things that are going to come forth that are going to be analyzing. You're going to have AI technology, which is already out there and has been out there for years. There were shows that we had on TV 20 years ago where they would give a guy $50,000 if he could avoid the FBI for 24 hours and get
I
away.
remember that.
Okay. So you had
Yeah.
that show and they followed him wherever he went in America 20 years ago. Imagine now the science and the sophistication that it's come into place on how they can get to us. We won't get anywhere. And not only that, they can actually, and it gets even bigger, mind thought. It's just not a theory about with Bigfoot, mind speak, mind thought. It's about technology. Once they understand your DNA frequency, because you have every person doesn't just have a blood frequency, they have an energy frequency. And when they know everything about you because you allow them to, because
Mhm.
you allow yourself to be in that place, they can identify you wherever you are just by that alone. And I know it sounds even more bizarre than the weather, but it's a factual truth.
Wow. Um, Joe Fox says, oh, Jamar said, if I was 20 years younger, I would move to the country of Sweden. And Nancy agreed. And Joe Fox said, fellow Pennsylvanians and Americans and patriots right here. Love you guys. Both your shows rock. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate that.
And, and
That's kind.
Jamar, yes, it is very kind. You're a good dude. And Jamar says Warren Buffett says biggest threat to man is not nuclear arms, it is AI.
Yeah, and it's also the most profitable. I told people that don't buy Bitcoin, invest into AI. I didn't want to guide people that way, but I didn't want to
Mhm.
lie to them about what I knew would be better. You know, what
Right.
kind of person would I have been? And we seen what happened. We seen what FTX did. We know that the Bidens had softened the blows on all that. What happened to the guy that stole the 450 big zeros? You know, and what's going on with him? You know, so you have an injustice with the justice system. You have a governmental military with an exterior governmental military that is into special ops and special projects and developments, and it's very deep. DARPA's at the head of it, and it has been since the earliest days. But now there's also new systems of different agencies that are now set into play that are doing some of this as well. Again, it's the manipulation of everything of life is going to come to where a point will be we're gone, Sean, but there will be a group of youngers who will understand why it's there. And that's like these college kids I talked about last night. This is our future for the country. These these actions, the way that they're acting. Well, of course, because again, they're being monetized with through dollars and cents of free college and Soros Foundation, as well as a couple others. And that's always been part of the play card on the Monopoly board, as well as when we were around the turn of events of when Trump was leaving and when Biden regime, Joe Obama was coming in with the third Wiener Michael to manipulate the system of the storms. So these were the same kids that were Antifa. They were part of all these same things. And when you ask some of these kids, and people were on TikTok going up saying, why are you here? They were all looking at each other. They didn't even have a clue as to why. All they knew was that they thought they were playing into a cause and there was a benefit behind the cause. And wherever these people pay to play for them, they are rewarded. They get things. They receive things. They know how to get welfare. They know how to get fundamental. They know how to get free loans and grants, and everything is in a purse for them when they act accordingly to how the system wants them to act. This is our future. But I also saw a good future of other respected people showing up and young men and women saying, you people were nuts, standing on the other side in an opposition, not causing harm, not spray painting colleges, you know, and not tearing down buildings and damaging and breaking glass. So there is still, even and when you look at that scenario of it, two sides of the divide. Ones who say they're acting inappropriately, and other ones saying, I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to be better. So we do know that they're there, but everything has been a circus of networking to get certain people into certain areas through family, blood, whatever you want to call it. And they're all sitting somewhere in some offices, as well as when you look at so many offices now are controlled by transgenderism.
Yeah.
Hermaphroditism. Hermaphroditism. Because we go back again. Why is that? Why is that prevalent? It's prevalent because that was the old system of the old world. People didn't judge people for being part, and if you were a hermaphrodite, being that you were very special. You were a special type of human. So
Right.
you have to go back, research, and you know what? Sean, I don't even know if I research everything enough because when I think I find that what I needed to, there seems to be another web that opens up other doors that takes me down another path, and I collect more data and information. But it all is simulated still when you go back to the earliest points of time of humanity, what it was, what they represented, and there's one family, one the ones who feel that this world is theirs and they want to bring it back to their civilization of time and ancestry.
Mm-hmm. No. River Rose says, "Good evening, Sean and Michael and everyone." River goes down. She says, "I think they are trickling out the technology that has always been there, but taken over centuries ago by the bad side and used for bad now." Then she says, "Control the youth of a country and you change it sadly."
Hmm. Yeah.
Tamar says that she wanted to know if George Soros is behind these universities, and he is. He is, plus more people. But I look at all, I was surprised. No, I was surprised, but I wasn't surprised with all these things going on at the different universities. Okay. And then I saw something that 40% of the people they have arrested were actually paid people to go into these places and cause hell, right?
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
seems like we're doing something a lot better. Those boys down in North Carolina saving that flag from going down on the ground. Kudos to them. Second of all, um, I these are older women, older school teachers that are actually saying to these children, go out and protest, go out and protest, do this, do that. It's like freaking insane, you know? And I just, what, like you said before, are these the kids that are going to be running our country, Michael? I want to be dead if that happens. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to be around. Nancy Vincent says, hermaphrodites were considered to be very unique, but even during the time of their birth, doctors and parents were allowed to make a decision to go into surgery that would make the child's gender, and probably still are doing that today.
Yeah. You, yeah. That was part of definitely a medical scenario that was available from the 1930s now into the where we are now. Because before that, it didn't seem to have any real relevance that we understand, and there's not a lot written about it, to be perfectly honest with you. But when you come to those points of time over the past 100 years, it had a significance. And I can understand, if somebody's born with both and they have all feminine qualities, well, then take that human being if they choose to the next. And again, why would they not do it? Because they were actually getting the practice on individuals as well, to learn about what they could do, for the future of medicine in a good way then, not as it is now. But they have success in many ways by doing that. But these kids, the demonstrators, the ones creating all the violence, I mean, they need expelled from the system of school. They should not be granted any privileges of, writing off whatever bills they have accumulated within the college uh, tuitions that are owed. We the taxpayers should not be doing anything for them, and we need Senate and we need Congress to step up and try to say, hey, look, we need to push on the police departments and the departments that had these people, when they were through their lockdown, and we need to formally charge them for what they did and hold them accountable with the full punishments of the law that we can utilize on them, because what they did was more than just destruction of property, and they create chaos that then is a black backlash that goes back into us, into the community. So it's much deeper than just one element of being somewhere causing this scenario of turmoil, which they do. But you got to expel them. You've got to remove them from the system and never allow them to have a degree of anything that goes through any college in the United States. And then you also have to ask this: why is $11.3 billion being donated into these colleges where they were all taking place at? And I'm not saying it just happened. This is things that have been going on over the years. Billions. I mean, let's talk billions. And how can they not survive? And why do they charge so much? And why are parents working to the blood to the bone to pay for them when they are actually, freelancing money through many things and workshops for the government? It's because when the government has its hands in everything, you control the element of what the government wants to be done. And that's why most of the disinformation is taught through the schools. Real medicine is not taught to the doctors. They come out brainwashed saying there's no possible way you can feel like this if this is what I'm seeing. And because they were even manipulated, being taught to understand that there could be somebody that's like you or Tom or Jane who goes and says, I'm having this type of thing going on with me, and what you're telling me doesn't help. Well, the only thing that doctor is trained to do is to practice on you, practicing medicine. It doesn't mean he's an expert at it. He's practicing. So he's going to feed you medicines, which medicines are going to cause you to need 4 or 5 other medicines because they cause adverse effects, and the system goes on. That's what it was put in place for. And when you go back into the earliest part of the educational system, the Rockefellers and Rothschilds were the ones who actually developed the college educations. They were the ones that put the money up to start it. Why? Because they knew they were going to need this into the plan. How far does this plan go back? That's all I can ask.
Robert Kinsella says, Mike, are you aware of the double slit experiment?
I know of it, but I don't really have any, conjecture that I would offer at this time.
It deals with the properties of light when it comes to if it is a wave or a particle. The experiment is over 200 years old, and as a result can change if they are observed, which put into question of reality. Rivers says, many of these colleges are behind it too. They all lean left, and we are in an election year, one that is highly charged for good reason. And Jamar says, universities lean left. LOL needed a good chuckle. It's true, Jamar. River Rose says they did it to create petroleum-based medicines.
Opioids. Well, that's not exactly all true, though, because we know that they had opioids in Stonehenge. They were utilizing them going into Stonehenge for natural earth energy frequencies. And things like that. So they have been around. There was knowledge to much of it. But again, there's what she says is also factually true because of the enormity of what the plan would be, what type of plan and the enormity of the plan would be needed to start marketing these things out as they do, whether it's guns, drugs, or rock and roll, it doesn't matter. They infiltrated everything to put us into a place or get us to honor idolism. Because if they could make you honor Ted Nugent or anyone else in the world, P. Diddy, what does it matter? They're collecting and gathering races for idolism purposes. Why is it? Because they're going to introduce you to the true idol of the ism of the world soon. That's the reflection. And it's not just about, because we talk about a structure that we understand as Baphomet. Baphomet's only been around like 200 years. That is something that somebody utilized as a system of a representation, we'll just say, which you might want to call just the devil. Just say the devil. But the point matter be, everything, no matter how you look at it, and man itself could not be this brilliant. Man itself, none of us, I could ever feel that someone could sit back, maybe Pythagoras or Plato or somebody had the mentality to illustrate something of this enormity. But I think it's even bigger than those guys, bigger than Tesla. They have some type of something of a guidance that has enabled them through all these years to play this long game to trap us where they want us to be. And we're this close to that trap.
Wow. It's getting close to that time to hang, the close up the show. God, I wish I had 2 hours, Michael. I did, but they split them up on me. Real quick, Jamar says, I know Berkeley is a very liberal college, but it all depends on the university. You make conservative universities too. And yeah. River says, and they removed real true healing from the earth. I believe that, River. I don't feel healthy when I go out and into the parks and sit on trees. I don't feel it. A lot of trees are crying out there. Mike, any good notes before we hang up, before we close the show?
I kind of shut my mind off knowing that you were going to do an end that. Not really. I mean, just that, we're still in a very bad position. It's a huge chess game, but we are part of the board. We are part of the beings on the board. As I once said, old men create wars, young men fight the battles. Don't be their young men. Don't let your children be their young men. Stand up for freedom in the United States, for us, for you, for me, for everybody, for the children.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Everybody, it is closing time of the show. Remember, this is a pre-recorded show. It will be shown on May 21st. Tuesday, May 21st at 8:10 p.m. And so whatever you missed at the beginning of the show, who just came in, please tune into that day and you will be able to see the show again. Michael, thank you very much for being on tonight. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Yes. And you know what, children, if you can, please go to your parents and give them a hug and tell them that you love them. And parents, please go to your children, give them a hug and tell them that you love them. And if you have no parents, if you have no children, go find somebody, give them a hug and tell them you love them. Remember, I will be on tomorrow night on my regular time, Sunday night. My guest is Ryan O'Shea, who I have investigated before with a lot of times. Joe Fox says, Sean, finish up with the hugs and love for Sean, Michael, and Everett. Love for you. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe. But you know what? Everybody, have a good night. And thank you for watching the show. Where is it at? There it is.